Good morning, everybody. I'm Zach Blanchard, and this is Political Brew. Joining me this morning, our analysts, Republican political strategist Garrett Mason and Democratic attorney Ken Altshuler. Good morning to you both, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
A lot has happened since we last saw you, and we will get to everything on the presidential race in the next half. First up, though, President Joe Biden is calling for reforms to the U.S. Supreme Court. He announced the initiative this week in Texas, saying he favors 18-year term limits to prevent what he calls multi-generational influence. He's also suggesting mandatory ethics rules and a constitutional amendment to make it clear former presidents do not have immunity from federal crimes.
This nation was founded on the principle there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law.
Okay, we'll start with the legal guy here. This is asking a lot.
It is. So let's talk about the term limits. We're the only country in the world that doesn't have term limits for the highest court. So this is not unusual. And I think that's what happened with Alito and Thomas having these gifts that weren't disclosed. I think it was really motivated. It's the time to propose it. It won't happen. No way you're going to get the votes in Congress in the United States. But I think the plan for 18-year terms is very reasonable and rational. It is a way to get rid of the conservative justices better than having the Senate confirm them, because we haven't been very quiet about that. Or we can just stack the Supreme Court. That's another way. But I think it's a good idea. The immunity for the president, I think that was a common sense decision that I think should have happened and did not. I don't see Congress passing it, but I support that.
And Garrett, Senator Susan Collins says there's no chance.
Yeah, I mean, there's no chance. At this point, the president's a lame duck president. I would imagine they're going to give him something before the end of the Congress, but I don't think it's
what they're going to give.
Yeah, right. I don't think they're going to give him this. I'm on the other side of conservatives on this. I don't like term limits. I think we have term limits in elected office. They're called elections. I think the federal judiciary, it's important to have these more longer lifetime term limits. I think it's an important thing due to impartiality. But I will agree on one thing. I think it is time for some ethics rules regarding justices. I think that just for everybody's clarity and safety, that I think that's a good thing. But that is not going to happen in this Congress.
All right. Next, all eyes are on frontrunners Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, but independent candidate RFK Jr. has qualified for the ballot here in Maine for November. The Secretary of State's office says Robert F. Kennedy Jr. turned in enough signatures to get on the ballot. That means his name will likely go alongside former President Donald Trump and Vice President Harris. She, of course, has to get the nomination at the Democratic National Convention, though, in a few weeks. Garrett, do you think he will pull any votes from either side?
Oh yeah, I think he absolutely will. I have friends in both circles of politics, and one thing that I hear from a lot of people is that they really like RFK. There's a lot of stuff that I like about RFK. I think he appeals to a different kind of person. I think he appeals to a lot of hope. I think he's pulling from both sides equally. But Ken and I were talking to this pre-show, but I think ranked choice voting could have a huge play in how that shakes out in this election, especially in an election that's getting closer since the entry of Kamala Harris. Ranked choice voting could play a part here, and RFK could play a huge part in where he sends his voters on that second round.
Ken, that influence, would that be in the second district?
Yes, absolutely the second district. The first district is going to vote for Kamala if she is the nominee, which she will be. I agree with Garrett. I think that he's going to pull equally from both sides. I thought he would really damage Joe Biden. I think Kamala Harris is a different creature. And so I think that he'll pull from both. I think ranked choice voting is going to, at the end of the day, make it doesn't matter. But I think it's an interesting entry to the race. He's a very mavericky, if I can say that. And I think he's an interesting choice for people who don't like either of the mainstream candidates.
All right, speaking of the ballot, this week the Secretary of State's office held a lottery to determine the order of ballot questions. The two big ones. Question 1 seeks to limit PAC contributions in Maine, and question 5, of course, that state flag issue. There are also a number of bond issues as well. Ken, first one, yes or no?
The first one will pass because I think people are really feeling that there's dirty money in politics. And even though this may not solve that, I think they'll vote for this because it's a feel-good legislation, morally and ethically.
Garrett, question 1?
Yeah, it'll pass. I think, this is a brainchild of Lawrence Lessig. His goal is to not actually implement this law here in Maine. His goal is to actually get this to the Supreme Court to get them to make a decision. So I do think it'll pass. There's going to be an injunction to stop it, and then they'll push it through the courts. So I hate that Maine is used in a guinea pig in this way, but I think that's where it's going to happen.
Maine's first.
Always, dear go Maine.
And question 5, Ken, yes or no?
I think yes. I really like the old flag. I really don't like the current flag. I want it, and you see it all over the place. T-shirts, cups. Yeah. It's going to pass, and it should pass, and I'm fully supporting it.
Yeah, I'm all in. I love it. I think the old Maine flag is great.
But not everyone feels this way.
No, it's true. And I was watching a TV show with a very well-known Maine chef who has a show on TV, and she was wearing the original Maine flag hat, and I was like, that is Maine on a national level.
We
so
love
I really
Aaron
like
French.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't say. I didn't know if I could.
I love Aaron French.
Me
so
too.
We'll take
Who
it.
doesn't?
All right.
Not the
My postcard is in.
Yeah, I never
too.
get it. One time I got in very early.
I think it's lost somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. The Weekend Morning Report is back right after this. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zach Blanchard, and this is Political Brew. Joining me this morning are analysts, Republican political strategist Garrett Mason and Democratic attorney Ken Altshuler. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's start with the remarks by former President Donald Trump about Vice President Kamala Harris's race.
She was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Trump made those comments at a National Association of Black Journalists conference this week. It has already caused an uproar and thrown into question what it will mean for his ability to court black voters. The Harris campaign not holding back, accusing Trump of being, quote, unhinged. Here's some of what Harris had to say in response.
We deserve a leader who understands that our differences do not divide us. They are an essential source of our strength.
Now, Garrett, we know the former president says whatever he wants, but isn't this a little too far?
Let's take a look at who Kamala Harris is and who she purported to be. This is a woman who grew up in Montreal speaking French. She moved to San Francisco. When she was elected to statewide office, the San Francisco Chronicle heralded her as the first Indian American senator from California. The first thing she does when she gets the presumptive nominee is she goes to Atlanta and speaks in a Southern accent. I mean, this is typecasting. It's cultural appropriation in a different way. I mean, there's a lot of things you can say about Donald Trump, and what he was calling attention to was what reporters and voters have said about Kamala Harris for years, is that she's fake, she's inauthentic, and she's trying to be all things to all people. You can say whatever you want about Donald Trump, but he's real, he's authentic, and that's what he was drawing attention to.
But Ken, this was in a room of black journalists saying something that was not only false, but racist.
First of all, he's a lunatic. He was unhinged. I watched that. I could not believe what I was hearing. She has always said that she's a mixed heritage. She's always said her father was from Jamaica. She has an Indian heritage. She has a black heritage. She has held out both. She hasn't pretended to be something else. And to say she turned black, I didn't know you could turn black. That was interesting. He is unhinged. He's insane, and he's absolutely panicking because of the nomination. And he's going to lose black voters. He was gaining black voters. This is not going to be good. And you're right. In a convention of black journalists, this is your audience. I think you need to know who your audience is.
But I think President Trump showed up. Kamala Harris did not. And either the organizers of that event lied to the Trump campaign, or Kamala Harris just didn't care enough to show up to that audience.
I wouldn't believe Donald Trump says.
The organizers said that. That was not from Donald Trump. But I mean, the point is, this is Kamala Harris being fake and not realistic. I mean, she didn't show up to a group of journalists that she purports to champion.
Well, first of all, she doesn't have to. And second of all, he won't debate her. So I don't want to hear Donald Trump.
Oh, he'll debate her, Ken.
Well, not if he's smart, he won't.
He'll debate her.
And while we're at it, Vice President Harris is expected to announce her VP pick later this week. Included on the short list, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Ken, who should she pick and why?
If I was an advisor, it would be no doubt Mark Kelly. He's an American hero. He's an astronaut. And when you have a former president that almost got killed and is viewed as an American hero for surviving, you kind of need that offset. I hate to say it from a political perspective, number one. Number two, his wife's a victim of a gunshot. That also offsets part of that argument. And he's a white male. Arizona's a border state. He's been critical of the Biden administration, and that is the major weakness of Kamala Harris's campaign. So it's a perfect choice. I'd be shocked if she didn't pick him. She's close to him. I think Josh Shapiro, and I hate to say this, he is Jewish. You don't, a woman of color and a Jewish man on the same ticket, particularly when the college kids who you've just drawn in, and now and they're pro-Palestinian, right or wrong, or smart or not, you're gonna lose a lot of votes by a Jewish candidate. I'm sorry, it's not time to do it. Mark Kelly's the man.
And Garrett, it's no secret, on the other side, Trump's pick of J.D. Vance has been met with some criticism. Does that raise the stakes for Harris's pick?
I don't think so. I think historically, vice presidential picks are a flash in the pan. I'm not sure that they bring any electoral votes. In fact, there's a lot of studies that say that they don't. But as far as J.D. Vance goes, he is intelligent, he is smart. And I think this whole, casting of him as weird is ridiculous. We can talk about a lot of weird things that Democrats champion, which we don't have time for. But I mean, if I had to pick somebody for Kamala Harris, it would be Josh Shapiro. It's Pennsylvania. He's incredibly talented. Like, he's a very smooth talker.
And a better personality in many ways.
Yeah, and he's got a great TikTok account. So, I mean, I think those two things are great.
All right, we'll leave it there. To Maine election news, the GOP and Austin Terrio campaign are going after Gerald Golden, accusing him of playing both sides and being a flip-flopper. It comes after an ad campaign where Golden appears to try to align himself with former President Trump and Republican issues. Now, the Golden campaign denies the claims. Garrett, what do you think?
I mean, I think that Gerald Golden has become an incredibly effective politician in Maine politics. I think Jared's very good at saying the right thing at the right time, and he's been a very independent operator. That being said, he has sided with the Biden administration many, many times, and I think that the Terrio campaign is trying to draw attention to that, and as they should. Like, there's definite questions about some of the votes taken about Social Security. There's definite questions about items on the border. Maine's a border state. I know people don't like to hear that, but that's definitely an issue that's going to come up in this campaign. But I mean, I think the Terrio campaign is very much trying to align himself with former President Trump. And, Congressman Golden has some questions to answer.
Does the Golden campaign really think it can attract Trump voters?
No, but I think they can attract independent voters who are not sold on Donald Trump and who he supports. And I think Garrett's hit it right on the nail. From a political perspective, you got to go for both sides. And he has been somewhat independent. Remember, Susan Collins, who's viewed as a moderate, voted Republican 85% of the time. So, I mean, he did vote conservative and against Biden on some important issues. He did flip-flop or change his position on guns after the Lewiston shooting, but that was an appropriate thing, I think, for him to do. So I think he's being smart and he's doing the right campaign thing. If you want to get elected, get as many votes from both sides as you can. That's the name of the game in the 2nd District.
I gotta hire you.
Finally, a historic prisoner swap led to the release of Bowdoin College graduate and Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich this week. Former Marine Paul Whelan was also among those released. Both were being detained in Russia. In exchange, 8 Russian nationals who are being held in the U.S., Slovenia, Germany, Norway, and Poland. Reaction to this, Ken?
Well, it's a great day whenever you get Americans out of prison in Russia. The downside, of course, is does that encourage people to kidnap Americans? But they do it anyway, and Putin is notorious for this. And the people they released to Russia are really, really bad people. Do you make the trade? Yes, I think you have to get Americans out when you can. I don't like it. It's like negotiating with terrorism and terrorists, but what's your alternative? Let them rot in jail in Russia? Not a good prospect. So yes, I applaud it. It's good. It was a good day.
Garrett?
Yeah, it's great to see Americans come home. I mean, I can't imagine how their families are feeling and how they're feeling. It's very exciting. However, I agree with Ken. It is hard, and I'm thankful that I'm not in those type of positions. But like, it is negotiating with terrorists, yes. And the people that got released on the other side out of Germany, they are dangerous people, and they are going to come after Americans again. And it's hard to say if it was the right call, but I think one thing that we can agree on, we can celebrate that they're home. The means on how they got here, we can talk about, but it's a difficult call.
All right, Garrett, Ken, thanks so much. We don't have time for winners, losers. We'll get them next time. That's going to do it for this week's Political Brew. Because of the Olympics, you can watch an extended version of the Brew on our website and new CENTER Maine Plus. The Morning Report is back right after this.